Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tooth and Claw Podcast. We are Wes, Jeff, and Mike.
That's
Tooth
the
and
three of
Claw.
us.
We are one entity at this point.
We are Legion.
We are.
Wes is our wildlife biologist, aka smart guy. And then
Sure. Real brainiac.
Mike's, you're both pretty smart too. I almost said
you were
Mike's
going to
pretty
say Mike.
smart. You are both pretty smart, just in different ways.
In
Mike
your
is
own
book
special
smart.
way.
Oh man, that is great.
Jeff is very clever. You're smart, Jeff. You are. That's not what I meant. It really isn't.
No, that's great. I think that sums up perfectly. It's hard to wake up today because my eyes hurt from allergies.
I can tell you sound a little groggy still, but pal.
I hope I get a nose whistle just because Mike's been making me mad.
Welcome to my world, Jeff.
This is my first time recording in my studio that I built, and I'm staring at our horses right now. They're out in the yard, and our sprinklers are going. And I have kind of a funny story about me being forced to be a farmer, which I like to tell the stories every once in a while because more and more I'm being like forced to do all these farm chores. Anyway, Jessie was gone, and we turned our sprinklers on about a month and a half ago. And when we turned them on, the water just smelled horrible. Like it smelled like sewage. And we have a septic system, so we were really worried that something had happened to our septic and that it had leaked into our irrigation well.
That
And
is
for
funny.
like, yeah, it's not. We're not to the funny part yet.
It gets
so
funnier.
For weeks, when we would turn our sprinklers on, it would smell like sewage, but then it would kind of go away after we ran them for a little bit. But during that time, I'd get like sprayed with them, or, you know, like you get wet when you're turning on irrigation sprinklers.
Oh, yeah, that's funny.
We're not there yet.
Hold on,
Thanks for
Jeff.
ruining my story. Anyway, Jessie went out of town. And I turned him on once when my dad was over and he smelled really strong. And I tried, he has a terrible nose. He couldn't smell it. But I was like, there's something wrong here. So we went over and opened up the well and I looked down there and there was like 3 dead marmots in our well, just rotting and like covered with maggots and gross. And I then had to fish them out. I built this weird little grappling hook on an extender that we had for a paint roller and spent an hour like fishing these rotten dead rodents out of our irrigation well.
Ew.
And it was just miserable. And it was probably the worst thing I've had to do on our little farm so far. And it was just one of those moments where it's like, what am I doing?
This is funny.
It was funny just in the how am I doing this right now? Like
I see what you're saying, but that I was thinking it was going to be like taking Jesse's responsibility. And if that's just like, Jesse, you have to do all of that, that would be crazy.
I wouldn't do that. This is not a Jesse thing. It's more just, I have to do farm chores.
You're
Funny. Either way, it's hilarious. Your little
I like
studio's
the
cool
part
though.
where he got wet with the sewage water.
Yeah, we've just been spraying ourselves with this like rotten rodent water for weeks.
Well, let's give
Did you,
listeners a couple. I think I'm behind you, Jeff. Sorry.
No, you're all right. I stopped talking so you could finish.
Okay. No, I was just going to say we're going to have to wait a couple of minutes for listeners to stop laughing before we can keep the episode going.
You guys torpedoed that story as soon as it started. That is not the story's
No, we
fault.
added to it.
All right.
It's a good story. I liked it.
Yeah.
Did you
Thanks.
make it so nothing can get in there anymore?
Yeah, kind of. I need to do a little bit better job of that. But we had critters living in there all winter. We had raccoons in there. We had marmots in there and ground
In the water?
squirrels in the well shed.
Oh, wow.
So a couple of them managed to fall in, which sucks. That's a terrible way to die.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah.
Mike, you think if you were like drowning in water and a horse came and grabbed you and pulled you out, how much would that change how you feel about horses?
I'd have to be like, I don't like you, but I respect you, is what I'd probably say.
I think you'd like horses after that.
I'd probably have to. Yeah.
Like
At least that
Aragorn.
horse.
Not to.
Aragorn.
Yeah.
Shit.
Aragorn is the one.
Yeah. Aragorn. You got it right that time. And then you corrected
I
yourself.
corrected myself.
Yeah. If it wasn't for that damn dragon book, Jeff, you would never have this problem. You know?
Yeah. Or that spider in Harry
terrible
Potter.
Dragon. Yeah. All right. Well, should we talk about the dragons of the seas today?
Ooh, yeah.
Loch Ness
Terrible
Monster.
segue. No, we're going to do another shark episode. Shark Week is coming out. A lot of people are going to be thinking about sharks. And this is actually a summer where a lot
John
of people are...
Cena this year, right?
Is it?
You did the ad read.
Yeah, I can't remember if he was in that ad read or not.
It's a weird pick to host the show because no one will even be able to see him, but that's their decision, I guess.
And the sharks are going to be too afraid to show up, too.
True, yeah.
There's been a lot of talk about sharks lately in the news because there's been a handful of bites recently. And there's been kind of a media...
And Trump was talking about sharks.
Yeah, Trump hates sharks. He wants to get rid of them, which doesn't
Batteries
surprise me.
and sharks.
That guy loves getting rid of things I
That's
love.
directly contradictory to the platform you're running on, Jeff. So you probably don't. You're opposed to Trump, at least on that one thing.
I'm trying to get the pro-shark voters.
So there has been a lot of talk around him, and it made me think about it quite a bit. And it made me remember other summers where this was going on. And this happens actually quite a bit, where a few people get bit by a shark and then they start to report on it. And then they just start reporting on every single bite that happens. And it makes it seem like it's happening a lot. And this is one of those summers where we're hearing a lot of stories about people being bit by sharks. And the one that it really made me think of was summer of 2001. And the reason it made me think of that particular summer is because there was a really interesting bite that happened that got reported on a lot. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about Jessie Arbogast and the summer of the shark. So summer of 2001 started like any typical American summer around the turn of the millennium. There's a lot of American kids that are getting out of school. And like a lot of them, Jessie Arbogast couldn't wait for all the adventures that he's about to go on that summer. It made me think about how that is probably the happiest any of us will ever feel in our lives, is when you're in that age range and you get out of school. The last day of school is the most pure form of happiness that I think exists on this planet. I really do.
Back then, it's like Y2K didn't happen, so we're golden.
It's
9/11 hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
Pre 9/11, post Berlin Wall.
I do though. I remember watching Dazed and Confused not long ago, and they have that like really good sequence at the beginning of the movie of everyone getting out for summer. And it just made me realize I'll probably never feel that level of happiness ever again in my life. And I don't know. Anyway, so Jesse's 8 years old. He just finished second grade, and he's particularly excited about the trip that he's going to be taking around Independence Day, or the 4th of July. He's traveling with his brother Vincent, his sister Maddie, his two cousins, and his uncle and aunt, Vance and Diane Flazenzier. I'm not going to say their name again because I don't know how to say the last name, but that's close enough. Vance and Diana. And they live in Ocean Springs, Mississippi, and they're going to be traveling to the Pensacola, Florida area. And so for like someone that age, I remember when I was that age, like thinking about Florida, it just kind of feels like a dream location. You've got these long sandy beaches, blue water, rolling waves, interesting wildlife, just this really amazing feeling of optimism at that age going to a place like Florida, like seaside Florida. And I'm sure that's what little Jessie was feeling.
Whatever. You were watching like MTV Spring Break and you're like, I want to go to Florida.
Yeah. I need to get to Florida ASAP. No, but in all seriousness, I was pretty obsessed with the idea of Florida as a little kid because of like alligators and the Everglades and swamps. It just seemed really exotic
Carson
to me.
Daly.
It seemed, Carson Daly, Boobs.
Penny Hardaway.
Yeah. I would sneak away and watch Spring Break late at night and stuff. Yeah.
Pre-internet days, like that was.
Oh yeah, that's how
that
we
was
got
gold.
it. Yeah,
That's all we had.
So 2 days before the 4th of July, the family's spending a near perfect evening at Santa Rosa Island. It's a beautiful barrier island with crystal white sand, warm, sparkling blue Florida panhandle water. This is just kind of one of those idyllic beaches that you dream about. It's around dusk, and Vance and Diana, the aunt and uncle, are relaxing on the sand while 4 of the kids were playing in the water. So Jesse and his brother were playing in these gentle rolling waves about 15 feet from shore in water that went to their waists, so about 2.5 to 3 feet of water. And Jesse's sister and their cousin were a good distance further out in the water, and they're playing in like slightly deeper water out away from the shore. So it's about as idyllic of a scene as you can imagine. It's these young kids around the 4th of July playing at dusk in this beautiful water on this amazing beach. But it's about to turn into a blood-soaked nightmare for the entire family.
Oh, not nearly perfect anymore. Why do you think it wasn't nearly perfect even before that, though? You think they saw like some like naked guy running down the street or something?
Like sand in their cross.
It's much more like 4th of July now, though. You know, you need a little blood for it to be 4th of July.
That's true. That's very
Lose
American.
a finger, something.
So Vance had been periodically checking in on the kids in the water as they swam. Not only is his daughter out there, but also his 2 nephews and his niece. And he and Diana are responsible for all of these kids on this trip, so he's being really vigilant. But his attention was away from the water when suddenly his 10-year-old son on the beach next to him started screaming. And the word he was screaming cut through the air like a knife. He was screaming shark. About 30 seconds earlier, Jesse and Vincent had been playing, that's his brother, playing in the small waves when suddenly Vincent felt something large and rough swish past him in the water. He looked up, and in horror, he sees a large fin and the back of a shark protruding from the water and heading towards his brother. Remember, they're only in like 2.5 feet of water here, so a lot of the shark was actually sticking out of the water while this was happening.
Oh, wow.
So Jesse sees the fin also cutting through the shallow water and heading toward him. He barely has a moment to register what's happening before the shark takes an exploratory bite on his arm. And then the shark immediately decides, oh yeah, this is food. I'm going to go ahead and eat this. And it takes a full bite out of his leg, removing about 2/3 of the mass from his thigh in a single bite.
Jeez.
It's a pretty small kid. Like, it doesn't take much to, like, an 8-year-old kid to eat a lot of his thigh.
The shark's probably still hungry. Even.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah, don't downplay it, Wes. It's still a bad thing to happen, you know?
That is a bad thing to happen, yes. Jesse starts screaming, he's got me, get him off of me. And Vance, on the shore, can see blood coloring the ocean around the thrashing shark, and he starts sprinting toward the water. And the children in the water are screaming, and the shark had focused its efforts on 8-year-old Jesse. And the 7-foot, 200-pound bull shark was halfway out of the water when Vance and another passerby sprint into the surf. This isn't something Vance had ever really prepared for. Like, this isn't necessarily something that you've, like, gone over in your head a bunch of times. And he didn't really know what he was going to do as he sprinted in the water. But he knew he had to do something. And he's 6'1", he's 200 pounds, so he's about your size, Mike. Jeff, you're a little shorter.
Beefy.
No, that's me.
He's a beefy guy.
Look at my dating profile.
Right. Look at Tinder. But he sprints in, and this big sandpapery tail of the shark is thrashing in front of him. So he just does what comes easiest, and he grabs the tail of the shark. And he starts trying to pull on it to get it out of the water, but the shark doesn't budge. And in the meantime, the shark had switched its attention back to Jesse's arm. So it had taken this massive chunk out of his leg. 2/3 of his leg is gone, and it starts biting down on his... But it's a small
child, though, so it's like not that big of a deal, right, Wes?
It's a big deal. I'm just saying it's not like it... Yeah, that's not what I was saying.
The shark's still hungry.
It's a bigger deal because he's a small child.
That's what I was trying... Well, whatever. Yeah. We'll agree to disagree, I guess, Wes.
We'll agree to agree. How about that?
Sure.
So... The shark bites down again, and they think it's probably because as it was biting his leg, Jesse was trying to push its mouth off of his leg. But the shark bites down again on his arm between his elbow and his shoulder, so his upper arm on the right side. And Vance starts tugging on the shark again, trying to get it to release his nephew. And as he does, he finally gets some purchase and pulls the shark, and it bites down and completely severs Jesse's arm. Like a little bit, about 4 inches below his shoulder. It's just gone.
No way.
Yeah.
But it's a small arm.
All right. We've lost Mike. It's not funny. I mean, he loses his arm. He's screaming. He's in a lot of pain, and he falls back into the water. I don't want anyone to think that we're laughing at that.
No, not at all. That's
okay.
A nightmare.
So Diana, the mom, the aunt, she rushes into the water, and with this help of this passerby that had also rushed in, she pulls Jessie onto the shore. And by the time she has his like little body onto the sand, his screaming had stopped. He's unconscious, and she immediately begins CPR. Meanwhile, Vance is still holding on to the shark in the water. His daughter and his niece are still out there, so he doesn't want to let the shark go because he's worried that it'll then go and attack them. So he summons
this
all
all
his
happened
strength.
really fast because
This
you
is
would think
fast.
they would have gotten out by now.
Yeah, this is all happened within like 30 seconds, from what I can understand. And they're out far enough, and they're like younger girls that I think it's taking them a little bit of time to get into shore. And they also don't want to like swim straight. They were like directly behind these boys. They don't want to swim straight in because all of this is happening like right next to the shore.
Man.
So he summons all his strength. He pulls on the tail of this thrashing bull shark, and he drags it all the way up onto the beach, I think with some help, right near where Jessie was laid out on the sand. And the last of Jessie's blood is coming out of his system. It did make me think, like, what if he woke up and the
shark
shark's
was
like
just
right next
there?
to him on the sand?
Yeah.
But luckily that didn't happen.
Yeah. Or the shark just like swam into the sand.
Yeah, I don't think that would happen either. But luckily as well, that didn't happen. But once the shark's out of the water, Vance runs over to Jessie and Diana. He takes over on CPR compressions and breaths. And this crowd is gathered around the boy, and they're shocked to see that he no longer has a right arm and that a huge bite out of his thigh is visible. They can see the white bone of his leg bone. They can see all this red muscle and tissue that's clearly visible. And there was even one passerby that said it looked like a drumstick that had a giant bite taken out of it. They also talked about how there was really like not much blood because almost all of his blood was in the water. It had spilled out really quick because when the shark bit both arm and leg, it severed his main arteries. So his blood pumped out really quick. And they could still see this big floating red spot in the water where this had all happened.
Tooth and Claw is brought to you by Miracle Made. It's hot outside, and your nighttime bedroom temperature has a huge impact on your sleep quality. If you wake up too hot or cold, I highly recommend you check out Miracle Made's bed sheets. Miracle Made sheets are inspired by NASA and use silver-infused fabrics that are temperature-regulating so that you sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. So I actually just got a new mattress, and my Miracle Made sheets didn't fit on this new mattress that I got. So first thing I did was went to this promo code that we have and got myself some new sheets because temperature is huge for me while going to sleep. And I just think these sheets are super comfortable, super nice, and they're very affordable, especially with this deal. So go to trymiracle.com/tooth to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or for a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo code TOOTH at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you'll get a refund. Upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/tooth and use the code TOOTH to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. Again, that's trymiracle.com/tooth to treat yourself.
So Jesse's eyes are open, but they've rolled back into his head. He's as white as a sheet, and his uncle and his aunt and some other tourists are fighting furiously to keep him alive. They wrap him in towels, they keep him warm, they tie tourniquets around his arm. And again, it's like completely gone 4 inches from his shoulder. And Vance had used his cell phone to call for help, and he told the dispatcher that Jesse's right arm was completely gone, his right leg was almost gone, and that he wasn't breathing on his own and didn't have a pulse. So not good. It's not looking good for Jessie Arbogast. When the helicopter from Baptist Hospital arrives, and as they're landing, they could see the gray shape of the shark on the beach. They can see the crowd surrounding this tiny lifeless body. They quickly assess the situation. They find that pretty much all of his blood had been drained from his body. And for them, typically for a medic, that's like, okay, this person's dead or going to die. I think I read somewhere that it's like 1% of people that have lost this much blood are able to come back from it. And the main reason there is just that there's nothing left to pump. Like you can't get the heart started back up again because there's no pressure. There's nothing left to pump. And also there's no oxygen going to the brain. There's no oxygen going to any of your organs because it's blood that transports our oxygen. So everything is kind of starting to shut down at this point. But they decide not to pronounce him dead. They scoop him up and they rush him into the helicopter. They continue CPR and they hook him up to a breathing tube. And as they're closing the door to the helicopter, they ask the beach rescuers where the arm was. And everyone's like, we don't know. So meanwhile, this is the crazy part of the story for me. Jared Klein, who's a National Park Service law enforcement ranger, was thinking the same thing. Like, where's this arm? He had walked over to investigate the shark, and he used his baton and kind of pried the shark's mouth open. And this shark's still alive. It's still alive, like thrashing and stuff.
Oh,
and
man.
He managed to see inside of its mouth, and he can see Jesse's arm lodged in the back of its throat.
No way.
Yeah. So he tells everyone to back up. He pulls out his service weapon and fires 4 shots into the head of this shark. And it kind of made me think, like, when he pulls out the arm, it would really suck if it had like 4 bullet holes in it after that.
Yeah.
But luckily he didn't hit the arm. And then they pried the mouth open again with his baton. And there was a lifeguard that wrapped his arm in a towel, put his arm halfway in, and then had like some medical tongs, like hemostats, and grabbed the arm and pulled it out of the shark's throat.
Wow.
So they wrapped it in a towel, they put it on ice, and they put it in a waiting ambulance that rushed it to the hospital. By the time the chopper landed at the hospital, Jesse had gone without blood and his organs without oxygen for about 30 minutes.
Do you
So
think
the
they
medics put
charged
him on
him
a-
full price for the ambulance? Or
I was
like,
wondering that myself.
if there's like an arm, just the arm.
I bet they
It's
did.
like, come on, it's like 10% of me.
Yeah, just based on our system, I really bet they did charge him.
I know.
Like the
It's
full
ridiculous.
ambulance ride.
The dad's like, no, I'll take it myself.
Yeah.
I've got it. This one did really make me think about the costs because as you guys are about to learn, there's a lot of medical stuff that had to happen in this. And I'm guessing his parents must have just had really good insurance because they never really brought it up in the stories. But anyway, they put him on a gurney. They take him 4 floors down to a trauma room at the hospital. They're doing CPR the whole time. And doctors and nurses put an IV into his arm and they start pumping O-negative blood into him. Because at this point, they haven't really had a chance to talk to his parents or like pull up his medical records. So they have no idea what his blood type is. So O-negative is the universal blood type. That's why it's so precious. And that's why if you're O-negative, you should try and donate blood because they can use it in these kind of scenarios. And they're just pumping it into his body. They pump nearly 1.5 liters of warmed blood into his body, which is about half of the normal volume for a kid his age, of like his entire blood volume. And finally, his wounds begin to ooze blood, but his heart still isn't beating. So they continue CPR and they pause and they're searching for a pulse. And finally, after a while of doing this, one doctor felt a faint carotid pulse. I always want to say the wrong way to say that. And then another felt a faint femoral pulse. And then the blood began to flow on its own.
Yeah,
And
Jesse.
outside,
He's doing it.
He's doing it.
Crazy.
Outside
It's
the
like making me,
ambulance.
like weak listening to all this.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I mean, who was Todd Endress, the guy that the Dolphins saved? He was another one where when they showed up, they're like, oh, there's way too much blood that this guy's lost, and then they like managed to revive him. So it is always a miracle when they can do this.
Yeah.
Right when that happened, the ambulance showed up with his arm and his heart started beating right when that kind of all came together. So when he was stabilized, the doctors called down some surgeons and they debated what to do next with this boy. And they were kind of shocked by how surgical these cuts were. And these are doctors that had seen shark bites before, but they said, you know, usually there's a lot more tearing and ripping. And with Jesse, his bites were so clean that
They're
they were
like,
like,
this shark could have been a doctor.
yeah, someone find this shark and put a scalpel in its fin. And then that ranger was like, oh, I got some bad news for you. No, but they saw this cut and they're like, I think we can do this. I think we can reattach his arm. So they worked for 12 hours, and I read through the whole description. It was really fascinating learning about how they reattach these tiny little veins and vessels and everything. But they managed to reattach his arm after 12 hours of surgery, and blood was once again moving through his shredded veins and arteries.
Oh, that's awesome. It's like
Yeah,
nothing even happened.
We'll get to that.
Oh,
Yeah, a lot happened. His parents, though, David and Claire Arbogast, had been called by Vance. Because remember, his parents weren't there. This was his uncle and aunt. And they're now at the hospital waiting to see their son. Jesse's eyes were open. He responded to pain stimuli. But it was clear that the loss of oxygen to his brain had caused some pretty serious brain damage. It would take months to learn how extreme that damage actually was. And his parents spent months with him there at the hospital. And it was really touch and go for a while. There was times when his organs looked like they were about to shut down again. They had a really scary first month in the hospital. But his parents were there when he moved his reattached arm for the first time. They were there when he first wriggled his fingers on his own.
wow.
It was really touching to read about.
Yeah.
Just like them sitting at the hospital and seeing these tiny signs of life start to come back in their son.
That's amazing.
And apparently they'd had an older son who had a really serious accident not long before, and they had to spend some time in the hospital with him too. So these are parents that have been through a lot and that were really strong and had like put a lot of their kind of goodwill toward their kids. So
That's awesome.
It was a touching one to read about.
I always wonder about that phrase. I hear it every so often, like responding to pain stimulus. And I always wonder exactly what that looks like.
What
it's
they're
like,
doing.
This kid just got like attacked by a shark. Are they like pinching him a little bit? It's like, come on.
They must
been
be
through enough.
But yeah,
Poking.
I know.
Yeah. Get that shark back in here.
Anyway, meanwhile, when all this is happening, the media is having an absolute field day with this story. Because like the story that they're running is this kid got his arm bit off. The uncle pulled the shark out of the water and retrieved the arm, which I remember hearing about this and thinking, this is the craziest shark bite story that I've ever heard in my life, that this happened. And because of this, they're getting a lot of people listening to this story. So they then start reporting on other shark attacks. And pretty soon, 2001 was starting to be called the Summer of the Shark because it really felt like people are being attacked left and right. So rather than go into much biology on bull sharks, which we've done before, I just kind of want to talk about this phenomenon that happens every so often. And it does happen where the media suddenly decides, okay, we're going to report on shark attacks.
They're biting both arms now.
You
said left and right.
Oh, left and right. I was wondering what that was. Yes, they will bite both arms. But were they really going crazy? Was this really a feeding frenzy of sharks, or was it more a feeding frenzy of media? So we're going to go through this similar media blitz on sharks right now, but it's not quite as in your face as it was in 2001, because we today get our news and media from so many different sources that it's hard for one story to really stick in the collective consciousness unless it's something really big. Anymore, we're just bombarded with so much information all the time that I think shark attacks can't really get inside of our collective consciousness like they could in 2001. In 2001, this was really one of the main things that people were talking about that summer was all these shark attacks. And I do kind of remember that. But it is kind of starting to sound like that this summer again with everything that's been going on. So I just wanted to talk about this phenomenon. So was 2001 really an exceptional year for shark attacks? And we're going to look at data that's collected by the International Shark Attack File, which we brought up a lot on this podcast, which is operated by the Florida Museum of Natural History and the University of Florida. So almost anytime we talk about shark bites, you have heard about it, but I'm not surprised that you don't remember. It's kind of the premier spot for data on shark attacks worldwide. And that's why we tend to go to it. It's operated by this guy, George Burris, who's the lead kind of scientist in this this shark attack file. And the data that I could find showed that in 2001, worldwide, there were 76 unprovoked shark attacks. In 2000, the year before, when no one was really talking about this, there were 84. So there was more in 2000 than there were in 2001. In 2001, 55 of the bites occurred in the US, which was one higher than 2000. And of those 55 bites, 37 occurred in Florida, which was one less than the year 2000. For some more recent context, the average number of worldwide unprovoked shark bites from 2013 to 2022 is about 74 per year. So about the same thing that we saw in 2001. There's a bit of fluctuation year to year, but each year we tend to see somewhere between 60 to 85 shark bites worldwide. This is like the entire world. And roughly 30 to 55 of them happen in the US. So we are number one.
Yeah.
Nice.
USA. USA. But something to remember when we're looking at this is a lot of underdeveloped countries don't really report the same way that a lot of the countries that are reporting do. And a lot of those countries do have higher rates of shark bites. So the numbers are higher than this, but this is what we have. This is the data that we have that we can conclusively say this is how many happened. So some years have a few more, some years have a few less, but they're really, at least since the year 2000, what I've found, there haven't really been any statistical outliers that can be comfortably called the summer of the shark. But that didn't stop Time magazine from running a cover story that said Summer of the Shark in 2001. And Jessie's story really had all the elements that news outlets absolutely love. And lucky for them, about every 2 weeks that summer, they had a new story to fuel the fire. And George Burris called it a media feeding frenzy because they just couldn't get enough of shark bites.
The media are the real sharks, huh?
They are. We always knew that, you know? Or the
Those
sharks
and
on
the-
that show.
People that play billiards all the time. There's some real sharks in there.
Yeah.
At the poker tables, you know all
Tom
about
Cruise.
that. Jeff, you're a
Yeah.
bit of a card shark yourself, right?
Dude, I had a good day in a casino.
What'd you put it on? Oh, you put it on green, huh?
I like when
on roulette.
I won a bunch of money on the Boston Celtics, and then I lost most of it in blackjack, and I was completely defeated. And I put it all on green just so I could leave, and I won. And I've won like $800.
You just got to bet on green from now on. The
Yeah.
Celtics.
Don't gamble. It's a bad, you
Yeah.
know. But it was pretty electric.
It's fun when
I
it
am a shark.
when it works. You feel awful when it doesn't. You just feel
you bite
so
anyone?
defeated and gross.
I
Pull the old
could've
Marv
if-
Albert.
I would have.
What I'm trying to say here is that the same thing is happening this year where we're not seeing, and you know, the numbers aren't in for the year yet, but my guess, I'll bet, that they fall within the normal bell curve, like the median and mean of shark attacks, where we're going to have a pretty normal year, but because there's been some like interesting ones, the media is going to report on it and make it seem like sharks are absolutely swarming our shores, and that if you get in the water, you're going to get bit by a shark.
I'll
And it's
bet
going
you.
to take some. Okay. Yeah. You think we're going to have more this year?
Yeah.
I bet we'll have less than we had last year. What do you want to bet?
Tattoo. Shark tattoo.
A shark tattoo? Deal. The loser has to get a shark tattoo.
All right.
I'll accept that bet.
Okay.
Okay.
Anywhere the winner wants.
Nope. I'm not taking that.
Tooth and Claw is brought to you by Element. Healthy hydration isn't just about drinking water. It's about water and electrolytes. It makes sense. You lose both water and sodium when you sweat. Both need to be replaced to prevent muscle cramps, headaches, and energy dips. But most people only replace the water. Why? Because since the 1940s, we've been told to drink 8 glasses of water per day, thirsty or not. Imagine how much water whales are told to drink. Probably way more. But they're drinking salt water, so they're probably good. Anyways, drinking beyond thirst is a bad idea. It dilutes blood electrolyte levels, especially sodium levels, which leads to headaches, low energy, cramps, confusion, or worse. The solution isn't to stop drinking water. It's to drink water plus electrolytes. So that's where Element comes in. Created by former research biochemist Rob Wolf, y'all know Rob Wolf, and Kettle Gains founder Louis Villa Sr., Element has enough sodium, potassium, and magnesium to get you feeling and performing your best. Plus, it has zero sugar, artificial colors, or other dodgy ingredients to hold you back. You're also guaranteed to find an Element flavor you love. My first time trying it, honestly, it caught me a little off guard. It wasn't what I was expecting, but now I really enjoy it, especially with like a real cold water. It's just so hydrating and my body loves it. So Element came up with a fantastic offer for us. Get your free sample pack with any Element purchase at drinkelement.com/tooth. Be sure to try the new Element Sparkling, a bold 16-ounce can of sparkling electrolyte water.
All right. Usually something has to happen to like shift the media's attention. And in 2001, something happened in the late summer that brought a quick end to all of the shark reporting, even though bites were still happening. Do you guys remember what it was? In
9/11.
late summer 2001? Yeah, well, I was going to say it was George W. just like reading those books to those kids. But yeah, also 9/11. Yeah. Yeah, it completely shut down any reporting on anything else. And sharks were still biting people, but the media definitely wasn't talking about it anymore. All they were talking about was 9/11. Which, you know, that's still all they talk about these days, right? 9/11.
Yeah.
All right, let's get back to Jesse. Jesse left the hospital in December 2001. So he was in the hospital from July to December. He was there a long time. His parents had become his main caretakers. They had to lift him in and out of his wheelchair. They needed to do essentially everything for him. And for quite a while, actually. They did everything they could to stay out of the media for a while. But about 8 years after the attack in 2009, they finally did a couple interviews to let the world see how Jesse had recovered. He was still in a wheelchair. He's mostly nonverbal, but it was evident that he's a happy 16-year-old kid that loves superheroes. He was really into blondes on TV. He spent a lot of time with his family. And
We were watching the same shows back then.
yes, we were. And his family really thought he's mostly nonverbal, so it was hard for them to communicate. But they really felt like he was taking everything in. It was just really hard for him to get information out.
Yeah.
And they learned to communicate with him through his eyes, through facial gestures, through his hands, and this really limited verbal communication. Sometimes when he gets really excited about something, he would like be able to say yeah or something like that, but really limited kind of verbal back and forth.
That's tough. I wonder why his vocal cords or something, was it maybe mental?
It's
or
not physical
or?
damage, it's brain damage. He was
Oh,
pretty
okay.
severely
Just 'cause
brain
the
damaged
oxygen.
from the lack of oxygen to his brain. He wakes up every morning with a big smile on his face, and then he always takes time to hold his loved ones' hands, to give them hugs. He's a very sweet boy. And from what they saw, like he had no real trauma from the bite. Like they would be watching TV and there'd be a shark and it wouldn't affect him at all. But it did really traumatize his brother and sister who were in the water with him. So in 2023, there was a spate of videos on TikTok that used AI. This is when AI was really starting to become something that creators were using, that retold his story, but pretty much got everything wrong. Like saying that he was a 13-year-old Australian boy that was dragged underwater by a great white shark. I watched a few of these videos. They're terrible. I still hate AI, but this is like early AI, people using AI in videos. So it's that really disconcerting, like the mouth is moving differently from the eyes, really weird videos.
Yeah.
I hated watching these videos. And it was really gross, to be honest, like most things that use AI. And it reignited a bit of interest in Jesse and in his story. And once again, his family found themselves in the news and they're talking about this incident. He's now 30, and from what I can tell, he's in about the same condition as he was when he was 16. He spends his weeks in a care facility for other special needs adults, and then he spends his weekends with his family. I really think the main lesson to learn from this story is the role that the media has in bringing interest to these kinds of stories and what a huge responsibility that is. And I don't think that we're separate from that. I feel that really strongly for the show. And I think if you tell these myths or if you tell outright lies about these stories, it can really traumatize these people. It can really make them have to relive this sort of thing by having to talk to the news and clarify these things that were told wrong. And it like results in a lot of negative repercussions for the species that are implicated in these attacks as well. So I don't know. I feel like sensationalizing, doing bad research, using lazy tools like AI really can lead to a lot of extra trauma and pain and heartbreak. And I promise that we're never going to do that here. If we ever mess up, we're going to correct what we get wrong without hesitation. We're going to do our best to not be lazy, because it is lazy to do that sort of thing. And you do traumatize people. And I hate that. Like, that's not our purpose here at all. Plus, it's no secret that we really care about the animals. Like, we care about the animal side of these stories. And I do think we should talk about that really quickly with this story, like what they might have been doing wrong. Do you guys have anything that you would guess that might have been like wrong about this scenario?
I mean, I wouldn't call it wrong, but you're more likely to get bit if you're in the water at dusk.
That's the only thing I had. Yeah. So really the only, and I'm with you there, Jeff, too. Like,
you're smart, Jeff.
You can, yeah, you are smart.
You are. Despite what Wes
Yeah.
would have you believe. I think you're
No,
smart.
he really is. I constantly am telling Jeff that he's smart.
Yeah,
But-
when you remember.
Yeah, off air, but when we're recording, that's when it comes out.
That was a slip. That's all that was, and it's not how I actually feel. I would never tell people like you can't swim at dusk, because you can. Like 999,000 times out of a million, you're gonna be fine. But it does increase your chances slightly of being bitten by a shark if you swim at dusk or dawn. This is a time when sharks are more active. It is a time when they tend to hunt a little bit more. Sharks, especially a shark like a bull shark, they're ambush predators. So if they can get that edge of having slightly murkier, harder to see through water, it allows them to sneak up on their prey a little bit better. And for bull sharks, that's typically fish. It can be sea turtles. It can be a lot of different things. This is a very opportunistic shark. And so hunting at dawn or dusk is slightly more productive for them. And so that's the one thing that I would say they maybe could have done a little bit better. Outside of that, they really didn't do anything wrong.
What if you're trying to get bit by Salma Hayek? Dusk and dawn, probably a pretty good time to be out.
That would be
Yeah.
the best time. Do you want to get bit by
That's
the
a great
human
point.
form of her or the vampire form of her? Because I
Oh,
want
that's
the
a
human
tough
form. Yeah. All right, so
When they're counting the shark bites, like, does this one count as 2 because it bit him twice?
no, I'm trying to use bites instead of attacks more and more with sharks, because the more I think about it, like, this is a fish. This is something that is just checking out food. It's the same as if you had a fish tank and you chuck something that may or may not be food into your tank, and the fish goes up and pecks at it a couple times. That's what the shark is doing. It is just investigating something and
interesting
biting
thought.
it. And
No, I like
there's
that,
no
though.
malice. There's no malice. It's not angry. It's just trying to feed itself. That's it. So it is a bite. It's not an attack.
What about when
It's
Joey
not.
Chestnut goes after those hot dogs? Because
Like
like
he's attacking those dogs.
yeah,
That's
he's
like
competitive.
That's 2 bites, but it's like the hot dog's gone after 2 bites. Nothing
Yeah.
left.
No, if like his leg had it taken another bite, it would have been gone too. So I think that's a
Been
good
chestnut.
representation. Yeah, this shark was the real Joey Chestnut of bull sharks. So bull sharks are found in coastal waters throughout
I can't
the
believe
Gulf
that
Coast.
that's where we ended up at the end of this story.
The rest of Florida has bull sharks. The eastern seashore has bull sharks. They're one of the big 3 of shark species implicated in bites around the world. And of those 3, they are the species most likely to investigate humans as food in very shallow water. So like these boys were in 2.5 to 3 feet of water. That's really shallow. That's water that you feel pretty safe in. And they got attacked by a shark in that, shallow water, bit by a shark. Schools of fish will come into the shallows for protection and food, and they'll be followed in by bull sharks. They're an incredibly opportunistic shark, and sometimes humans get bit as a result. There are a lot of bites that go underreported in undeveloped countries, like I talked about. A lot of those bites could be attributed to bull sharks. Also, great whites and tiger sharks, the other two of the big three, are very distinct looking sharks. Like great whites have that really distinct bicoloration, that pointy nose. Like people know what a great white shark looks like. And then tiger sharks are really distinct too. Can one of you guys describe what a tiger shark looks like? Do you remember?
It almost, to me, looks like the reflection of the water on the back, but it's like permanently on there. Like it has the stripes and like really cool coloration.
And how about their like face, how their face is shaped?
Kind of like flat and broad a little bit.
Just think of a tiger and put it on a shark.
I don't know if that's a great description, but yeah, they have a very like flat, broad face. They're, like you said, Mike, like box-like with a really sharp edge to the front of their nose that's like horizontal. They're distinct looking. Both of those species are. And bull sharks kind of look like a lot of other species of requiem shark. They have just a really a really general appearance. So the reason I'm bringing all that up is there's a lot of attacks or bites that get reported that people don't know the species. And a lot of those are probably bull sharks, but they're not assigned to bull sharks because we can't say for sure. So there's a decent chance that this is actually the shark responsible for the most bites in the world, but we can't say for sure. Right now, that award still goes to great whites, but there's a chance that it's bull sharks. So there's an argument for this being the most dangerous shark in the world, especially because they're in shallow waters. All right. So we've gone over the biology of these guys in depth in some of our other bull shark episodes. If you want to learn more about bull sharks, listen to our 2021 episode titled Bull Shark, What's the Spanish Word for Shark? It's about a bite that happened in Cancun. Great title, Mike. Good job.
What is it? That's a good question by me.
Tiburon. Remember in the episode, they were like yelling Tiburon, but they didn't like know what that meant.
She didn't know what it was. Anyway, today, rather than going into all the biology, I mostly just wanted to talk about that media feeding frenzy and how there really aren't summers that are much more dangerous for shark bites than others. Even if you're hearing about it in the media, just be careful if you're swimming in those places where it's happening, Florida, the Carolinas, but you're not any more likely in any given summer to be bitten by a shark than others. All right.
What about killed in a terrorist attack?
2001 was a bad summer for that. Yes.
That's the worst one for that.
That one was a real outlier. We do much, much, much more harm to this species than they could ever do to us in a million years. And we're going to talk about that briefly in conservation. We obviously have like drilled that to death on this podcast, but we're not going to stop because we love sharks here. All right. Let's do our ouchies for Jessie.
I think this might be a 10. Even I know we usually reserve these 10s for people that like die in really awful, terrible, drawn out ways. But no, Jeff, you're a little more cavalier with your numbering systems.
No, I think Jeff's smarter about how he does his.
You think?
I do.
You think he's smart? Oh wow, that's news to me.
I think the worst attacks are the ones. As I'm not too smart, so I just processed that. But the ones where they have to like live their whole life with the ramifications of the attack.
For me, not only was this one a horrific attack in the first place, horrific bites, like, you know, he lost a lot of his thigh, which they weren't able to, like, he still has really reduced mass in his right thigh. He lost his right arm. They reattached it, but it never went back to like full use again. And a lot of that's because of the brain damage. He had really bad brain damage and his life has been changed forever. And I think it's a testament to how strong he is that he's still able to be like a really happy person.
Yeah.
And have a really meaningful life. But yeah, for me, this is a 10 out of 10. I don't think it gets much worse than this.
Yeah. Strength of the family too. Like the parents sound like they went through a lot even before this event. and they've been
Yeah.
what I assume that seems like they've been like incredibly caring and loving parents as well, which is always really nice to hear.
They seem like good people. Even when they talked about these AI videos, the mom was just like, listen, we don't have any energy to put toward that. We just love our son and we want to make sure that he continues to have a good life, you know? So
that's good.
Plus salt water in the wound followed by sand in the wound.
Yeah, you got sand again. Yeah. Also, one other thing that I think I should just bring up really quickly, even though I hesitate to do it. When the story first came out, there was a lot of bad reporting around it. And someone came up with this rumor that his uncle had been fishing for sharks. And that's why the shark was in the shore in the first place. And that's why it bit the kids. Completely false. If you read that about this anywhere out there, that's completely fabricated. He was not fishing for sharks. So just so you know. And that caused them a lot of pain too, to have to kind of fight that rumor, even though there's no truth to it. Okay, that's it for the story. This is one I wanted to do for a while.
It's crazy to
we finally got to it.
Not be fishing for sharks, and he literally caught a shark.
He did catch one. Yep. Yeah. He pulled one out of the water. Yeah.
Pretty insane.
Yeah. I wonder what they did with it, like with its jaws and stuff. I feel like they should have given those to his uncle.
If he'd want them.
Or to Jessie. Yeah, probably not. All right. You guys have any questions about this one before we get to our categories?
No.
All right. Okay. Not very smart.
No. I never claimed to be.
Just kidding. This episode is brought to you by Thread. Thread is your go-to for all things carry, minimalist, and functional. And I really need that. I have a wallet that I've just had for years that I'd been using before I got my Thread wallet. And I just put everything in there. It was falling apart. It was really uncomfortable to sit on. So anytime I was sitting for a long time, I found myself taking my wallet out and then I'd leave it or I'd forget where I put it. And I don't do that with my Thread wallet. It's really small. It fits everything that I need and nothing else. So it's really functional and honestly perfect for me. And plus I got a lot of other really cool stuff from Thread. I have a crossbody bag that I really think will make for a perfect carry-on and a great little lanyard for just about anything. Am I saying that right? Lanyard? I think lanyard. Anyway, their products are sleek, stylish, and perfect for helping you stay organized wherever you're heading. If it's to the beach, if it's running errands, if it's on a trip, they have great stuff for you. And you can explore the entire collection at threadwallets.com, where you no longer need to sacrifice functionality for style or vice versa. And here's the best part. They're giving Tooth and Claw listeners 20% off with the code TOOTH. So make sure to use that at checkout. That's threadwallets.com, code TOOTH for 20% off. Thanks, Thread, for sponsoring this episode. All right, so I got a couple categories for us. First, your coolest possible replacement for a lost limb. If you guys lose either an arm or a leg or any limb, I'm just going to open that up. What do you think would be the coolest thing you could replace it with?
Well, you said that they were attacking right and left.
Mm-hmm.
So if it was both my arms, I would want those water jets that you can use at the lake and you can float around.
That's my exact answer.
If it's just one arm, I'd want a giant Pez dispenser.
You would want huge Pez or a giant one that shoots out tiny Pez.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask.
Maybe I could have both. That's too hard to decide.
Yeah, huge Pez. I would never want a Pez that's a brick sized. I just want a ton of tiny ones.
Yeah.
I think I would get tired of Pez.
Yeah.
But I love Pez.
What model would you have? What would the head piece be?
Well, that's the cool thing with Pez. I think I would have a lot of different.
Oh, you'd make it modular?
Yeah.
Yeah. I do like
or just the normal size ones. Standard size.
Dude, you should make a headpiece of your head. So you just have your head is the Pez dispenser.
Oh, I wonder if I could
have two heads.
And then you could kiss it sometimes too.
Or maybe a shark one.
That'd be weird if you how subconsciously you kind of start, sometimes you just put your hands down your pants.
I know what
you don't do that, Wes?
Oh, no, I do. Sorry, I didn't know what you were trying to say, but now I get it.
Well,
you could have just
said
about it. Going pee.
Yeah.
Well, that's even weirder because there's no pee involved with the way I was saying it.
Mike, what's your answer? Jeff kind of took mine, so I'm trying to think of something else.
I got a little confused because there was a little bit of back and forth about this category. I thought we ended up somewhere more like the most useful. So I came up with like a USB charger.
Okay.
That's what I would want.
With the nuclear codes.
Oh, yeah. I'd have the nuclear codes for some reason on my USB charger.
Yeah. If it's most useful for me, it would probably have to be like a hook to fish dead animals out of my well. But I don't know. Jeff threw me off. Maybe just like a big old spoon because I'm constantly using spoons for things.
Yeah. I would suggest a spork if you're going that route.
I kind of hate sporks, to be honest. I know it makes more sense, but yeah, you're probably right. It should probably.
I just think no one's manufactured a spork to their full potential. They're always kind of flimsy and like weak and stuff. I think if someone made like a real solid spork, we'd all change our tunes.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well,
the spoon's just never like spoony enough, and the prongs on the fork are never prongy enough. There's just like a lot of concessions
a weird middle ground.
But you think there's a route to getting both of those?
I do. Yeah. Just make the spoon a little like more bowl so it like actually will hold liquid. Make maybe one or two of the prongs a little longer so they actually work like a fork. I don't know. People are just so dead set on making them bad that whoever owns sporks.
Jeff on this one that they've like.
Yeah, that's fair. I was just playing devil's advocate.
Dude,
here.
If it's both your arms, you could do chopsticks.
Oh, that's true. I would not want that. I'm terrible with chopsticks. Even though I've like used them a ton, I'm not good with them. All right. Well, my first answer was the water jets, so I'm just gonna stick with that.
And I'll go with spoon. The best one.
One. All right. I want your favorite beach scene from a movie. This was a really idyllic beach scene to start. So what's your favorite beach scene from any movie? And I restricted this to movies because I didn't want a One Piece answer. But I guess there are One Piece movies.
There are.
Yeah. It seems like you guys are still thinking, so I can go. I went with the scene at the beginning of The Lost World, Jurassic Park, where the little girl is feeding the compies on the beach. I like that scene because you see the tension kind of ramp up, but then it cuts away when the actual attack happens, and you have to imagine what happened to that little girl. And for me, it was really effective. I really like it. And then there's the cut of the mom screaming, and it cuts to Ian Malcolm like yawning on the subway with the tropical scene behind him. I think that's such a genius cut. So that's mine. That scene on the beach in Lost World Jurassic Park.
Well, the little girl, like she survived and grew up and was in another movie.
Oh yeah, she was in a few movies.
She was in a scary movie about like a phone, like someone calling her on the phone. That was scary. But she made it. That's all I'm saying.
Scream?
She didn't die.
I think
she was in Scream.
Name.
That's what they do in Scream.
That is what happens in Scream.
Oh, the phone calls? Yeah, you're right.
All right, other beach scenes. Do you guys have any?
Yeah, so I recently watched The 400 Blows for the first time. Finally got around to it. And the end scene is one of the most famous shots in cinema history. And it really resonated with me very emotionally. It's about a little kind of a troublemaker, ragamuffin kid in France. Finally escapes all of the people keeping him in class, keeping him in the house, keeping him in his room. He goes to the beach, he runs around, and there's that famous like quick zoom in freeze shot on his face. It's a really powerful movie. It's one of those things where I went into it thinking like, this is an old movie. It's not going to be as good as everyone says. And it really worked for me. Really emotionally resonated for me on some profound levels.
400 Blows.
Yeah.
I'll add it to the list.
I'll go. My like gut reaction was Pirates of the Caribbean, but
which scene?
That's the problem. There's not like a beach that quite sticks out as much as the water in general.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go with Shawshank Redemption.
Okay,
the very end scene. It's just like they did it. They're in Mexico. They got some money. He's got his old boat he's working on. Who knows what they're gonna do the next week?
Just hang out on the beach.
I guess they just live on a beach now.
Yeah.
Which
it's better than prison.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good pick. I like that. All right, your favorite Jessies from all time. Favorite Jessie.
This was such a hard one for me. So
yeah,
it's Jesse Owens is where I landed. Jesse Owens, 1936 Olympics.
You're big Olympics.
I love the Olympics. Yep. 45 minutes, broke like 4 world records, often cited as like the greatest hours in athletics in history or something. I don't know. He just single-handedly.
He met your hero,
Hitler. He basically
Mike's hero.
Hitler was in attendance, and Jesse Owens was like, "Well, let's just disprove this whole Aryan master race theory real quick," and he did. Jesse Owens is the best, but had a real hard time picking him over Jessie from Team Rocket and Pokemon because she's just such a babe. I love her. Their huge hair.
I mean, I love our guest Jessie who comes on, but I'll go with
just our guest.
Yeah. I'll go with Jesse Pinkman from Breaking Bad.
Oh, it's a good pick. I'm gonna pick my partner of 6 years, Jesse Hallstrom, who I love.
That's a good pick.
And even though I was complaining about farm stuff earlier, every night that I like look out over our little couple acres here, I just feel very satisfied. And a lot of that is because of the effort that Jessie has put into it. So she's good for a lot of reasons. That's just one of many, but she is my favorite Jessie.
You gotta watch out for bites from her too.
She's a little bitey sometimes. Yeah.
Your limbs are safe.
My limbs are okay. She's not biting off any of my limbs, I hope, or appendages. I would say my runner-up Jessie is Jessie Watson, who works for Hawkwatch. Good friend of ours, has been just like a constant good biologist friend. So shout out Jessie Watson.
Hi, Jessie.
I want to do What Would Mike and Jeff
and
do?
Just all you other Jessies listening right now, shout out to you.
Great name. Yeah.
Specifically.
Yeah. All right. What would Mike and Jeff do? I'm going to let you pick any aspect of this story and run with it.
Man, I just think pulling that shark on the beach was so crazy.
Are you beefy enough to do that?
I think so. I think I could do it. I think I would do that same thing. I would go grab its tail, pull it in, but I would just like jump on it, like flip it over, jump on its stomach, and the arm shoots out. That's the only difference.
Do the Heimlich do it? And
so you try to like keep the shark alive, but still get the arm out.
And then I'd put the shark, I'd get my kids out, let the shark go, you know.
I like it. That's a good answer. Great answer.
Whew. This is a hard one because we kind of all decided together that there wasn't really a lot more, like other than not swimming when it's getting dark out. I would take my kids to the fireworks show instead.
Yeah. Make your kids swim in 5 inches of water.
Yeah, right.
I will say for like the what would Jeff and Mike do, this is a bad one for my answer a lot of the time of just shoving your arm down its throat.
Yeah, this isn't the right one for that.
Yeah. It didn't work.
It sure didn't work for him, did it? All right. Well, I'm going to say what you actually should do. The number one thing, of course, and we've talked about this with all of our shark episodes, is prevention. So first of all, you want to be really careful when and where you swim. Like we mentioned earlier, dusk and dawn are times when shark activity might be a little bit higher. Also, areas with murky water, areas with increased sea life activity. So if you see there's like a lot of fish, a lot of stuff happening, you might want to be a little bit more cautious about going in the water. Or places where people have intentionally or unintentionally been baiting sharks. So recently in a news episode, we talked about that pier in the Bahamas where they were throwing fish parts into the water. Those are places you'd want to avoid swimming. Also, just pay attention to signs. If there has been sharks spotted, they often put up signs on beaches to let you know that there'd been potentially dangerous sea life spotted. So just pay attention to all that. If you are in the water and you see a shark approaching, you want to do whatever you can to stay calm, because the more splashing you do, the more you look like prey that's trying to escape. Keep your eyes on the shark, even if you have to put your head underwater, and do anything you can if you have something to keep something between you and the shark. So if that's like a boogie board, if you have a GoPro on a stick, anything that you might have to put in between you and the shark. That's really important. And you don't necessarily, I think the temptation would be to try and push the shark away with it. That can trigger them to be a little bit more defensive and can actually cause them to rush in and bite. So really all you want to do is keep that object in between you and the shark. If it does come in, it'll run into it on its own, and that's typically enough to discourage it. And then as you're doing that, you just want to stay calm and do your best to get out of the water. If someone's been bitten by a shark, you want to help them. You need to respond. There is data out there that shows that when people intervene, it often stops the attack. There are times when people are bitten as they're trying to help, but it's really, really, really rare. And the quicker you can get that person out of the water and stem the bleeding, the better chances they have of surviving, of not having these kind of long-term effects from the bites.
What would you say with like the uncle in this story?
I think you did a great job. I think everyone in this story did the best they could to respond to this. They put tourniquets on. I think the problem was just he was small and the shark got him in the two places that are worst. You know, it got two of his major arteries. So I shouldn't say they're the worst. Like his head would be the worst, but like these are two really bad spots to get bitten by a shark because your blood comes out really quick. So, and he didn't have much blood. I mean, it's a small kid. So I think people did the best they possibly could with this. And I think the reason the thing that shows they did is that he's still alive. Like by all means, he should have died there on this beach. And because they were so quick acting, he's alive and his arm got reattached.
I was really surprised when you were telling the story that like the shark didn't disengage when the uncle grabbed its tail.
Yeah. And we've seen that before, like in our 1916 attacks, there was I think it was Charles Van Sant. As they were pulling him up onto the shore, the shark came back in and they played like tug of war with him, which is crazy.
That's right, man.
You've heard us talk about Lumen a little bit on the podcast, but you might be wondering, what exactly is Lumen? Well, it's the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. And then on an app on your phone, it lets you know if you're burning fat or carbs, and it gives you tailored guidance to help you improve your nutrition, your workouts, your sleep, even help with stress management. Your metabolism is your body's engine. It's how your body turns the food you eat into fuel that keeps you going. And your metabolism can really change a lot throughout your life. Because it's at the center of everything your body does, optimal metabolic health translates to a bunch of benefits. Easier weight management, improved energy levels, better fitness results, better sleep, better stress management, a lot of different things. And using your metabolism, Lumen gives you recommendations to help you improve your metabolic health. It also can track your cycle, the onset of menopause. It can do a lot of different things just to help you live a healthier life overall. So if you want to take the next step in improving your health, go to lumen.me/tooth to get 15% off your Lumen. That's LUMEN.me/tooth for 15% off your purchase. Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode.
All right, so our next category, Jeff, do you have an animal fact for us?
No, I forgot.
Okay, yeah. All right, we'll skip that one this week.
Wait,
do you have?
I can come up with. I have to have one. Let's go. Have I done pikas collecting flowers in front of their dens ever?
You have.
They'll like collect flowers and they'll put them in front of their little like rock burrows that they have.
Oh,
and I think that's
cute.
really cute. Yeah.
Pikas, for people that don't know, are like a relative of rabbits. People want to think they're rodents, but they're actually lagomorphs. They are in the same family as rabbits. They live in alpine environments. Very cute little animals.
Oh,
That's
wow.
a good fact too.
West fact.
Yeah.
I don't have one.
They're spelled like Pika, so I always think Pikachu.
Pika. And they kind of look like Pikachu. Yeah.
A little Pikachu-ish.
All right. Do we have any listener questions? I'm sure we have them. Okay. This one's from Therese. It's kind of a heavy question in a way. Therese says, "Hey guys, I have a question. With the podcast being successful, has it changed your world/idea of yourself, or maybe your personal experience of life? Were there any side effects that you did not anticipate?" I think it's changed my world in that it's given me like a nice way to communicate stuff that I would care about deeply with a lot of people. and make some money doing that, which has like always been my dream. So in a way, it's made life a bit easier for me. Outside of that, I think the other thing that it's done that's been really nice is it's strengthened my friendships with like two of my favorite people in the world. So
who?
You and Mike.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah, I do think, the tricky part of it has been making sure that we are always on the same page and that we always put our friendships above everything else. But I think we've done a good job of it. So for me, I don't know. I think that would be the side effect I didn't anticipate, is like the amount of kind of little things that have come up with the podcast. But overall, it's been a really amazing thing for me personally.
Yeah, no, it's a dream job situation. Like, work with your friends. It's not like super demanding. It gives us a lot of freedom to explore the world. So like, it's hard to be anything but grateful for where we are. And like, we owe a lot of that to the listeners. I'd say like
all of it. Yeah.
Well, I would give myself some credit.
Yeah, but like, it's because of them that we're able to do any of that.
Yeah. I'm not giving them all the credit.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. But I think negative, the only thing I'd really say is just like, you always feel like you could be doing something with this job. And like it's hard to like completely ever get a break, I guess.
Yeah, we never get to like clock out.
Yeah, we always have like people we can respond to and more that we could be doing. But like,
that's a good point.
It's way better than the alternative. And like, I enjoy speaking with people. It's just that's what
I do sometimes. Even last night I was like, man, sometimes I just wish I was doing something where I could just leave it at the office. Like the second I leave the office, I don't have to think about it. And for us, we constantly have to think about this. But yeah, that's a good point. Mike, do you have anything?
Yeah, just how much closer I feel to you two, and how I really feel like I've turned into much more of like a ride or die kind of person, kind of a friend, or at least that's what I want to be. Because whenever I hear negative feedback, and this extends to any of our guests, it's just like, I just want to reach through the computer screen and like shake whoever is saying something mean about any one of us. And it's like,
that old lady, you would have shook her.
Oh, I would have tossed her off, thrown her through the wall. No, but for me, one thing that's really changed in my life, just like how I communicate with people, every time I say something when we're not recording, sometimes I get the thought, would I say that when we are recording, when other people can hear me? And I think it's turned me into a bit of like a softer communicator, and it's a change for the better. I can be pretty abrasive and kind of prickly. That's just kind of my nature. It's something I've really tried to work on. So
yeah.
But yeah, you always hear never meet your heroes, but no one ever said anything about podcasting with them. And that's you, Wes. Jeff, sure, why not?
Well, I'm not as smart as Wes.
Yeah,
you are. We just have different types. I will say like one other thing I wanted to add. The question was like, how is your self-image kind of different? For me, it has been a little tricky to go from being a full-time field biologist to mostly not. Like I really don't get out in the field that much anymore. I'm still working on research, but it's mostly at home. And that was such a big part of my identity. And the podcast just takes up enough time and effort that I can't really have both of those jobs at the same time. And so that has been a little tricky to wrap my head around. But yeah, anyway, thank you for the question. Hard-hitting question.
Yeah, okay. Good question.
Okay, this one's from Oisin. Hey guys, I have a strange question based on a funny story from high school. One time in geography class, we ended up in a class discussion about wolves. Whilst this discussion was happening, one of the girls in my class interjected and exclaimed that wolves weren't real, and this was a silly discussion to be having. At first we thought she was joking, but no, she was being completely serious. She believed wolves were in the same category as werewolves, as in pure mythology. I think back on that story and get a good laugh. So my question for you guys is, what's an animal that took you an embarrassingly long time to realize actually existed? For me, I didn't realize the fossa from Madagascar were 100% a real animal until I saw them in a lemur documentary. Do you guys have any animal that you thought was like a fake animal for like an animated show or something that you then realized was real?
Reindeer for me took me a real long. Well, I knew that
that's
like
a good one.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I knew caribou exist, and they're kind of the same. Maybe that's not like totally accurate, but I thought reindeer were just a totally Santa Claus Christmas thing.
Yeah, they are the same, but yeah,
are they the exact same?
They're reindeer is what they call caribou in Scandinavia, but they are different. It's like a different subspecies of the same animal.
I don't know. The best I can think of off the top of my head is just like seeing how many Pokemon just look like animals. Because like when I was a kid, I was just like, oh, this is like the most unique creation I've ever seen. And then it's like, oh, wait, that's actually like based off of something. And so is this. And so is this.
I definitely knew who Sandshrew was before I knew what a pangolin was.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
I think mine was like a secretary bird. They're a bird that mostly is ground based. They have really long legs. They kind of look like dinosaurs and they eat snakes and stuff. And I had seen them in like The Lion King and other stuff. And I thought it was kind of just a bird that someone had made up. And then when I saw one in real life, I was like, whoa, this is an amazing animal and really cool. So
they're cool.
I think
I picked one as my kicker.
Oh yeah, that's right.
When Jeff and I made our football teams out of animals.
All right. Jeff, do we have any listener ones or?
Yeah, I can pull out a couple. JRock41, is Mike really a master diver? I couldn't tell. Yeah, he is.
He is, yeah.
No, I'm not.
What are you? You're advanced?
Intro you that every time. My bad.
No,
That's
I'm
my
like,
bad.
I'm one step above the very most basic beginner open diver. So I'm on my way, I guess you could say. But no.
Yeah.
Hannah Boyd 99. Are there more doors or wheels in the world?
Oh yeah, we talked about this once.
Did we?
Because like,
have we?
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
I think.
But I brought it up because I'd seen it, and it really made me think for a long time, which it was. And we kind of got into what you define as a wheel or a door, and that's where it got really complicated. Like, is a desk drawer a door, or is it not? You know, or
That's
are the little wheels
question.
on the little wheels on a desk drawer? Are those considered wheels? They are. So for me, I would say it's wheels, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go doors.
Like, because you think
cars
about
have
like
4 doors and 4 wheels.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you think about like apartment buildings
Except
and how many
a limo.
doors there are.
Or a semi.
All right. Knona Showa. Scuba Master Mike, will you teach me your underwater ways? I am in need of an aquatic master.
Just figure out a time and place to meet. Make sure there are a lot of witnesses there.
Bethany Elisa. Jeff, my husband is from Guatemala, so we visit yearly. What do you miss the most? I'd say, like, one thing I really loved about Guatemala was, like, every block or two, there were people they're called, like, tipica clothes or, like, Mayan clothing. Sometimes they didn't even, like, speak Spanish. They spoke, like, a Mayan language, and they were making corn tortillas on, like, this big fire-burning grill, and they were just the best tortillas when you bought them fresh. So I would say I miss that the most.
Yeah, having those windows into the past like that are so cool. Like, I remember when I went to India, I was shocked by how many people there, especially women, wear like really traditional clothing. And I think it really adds a lot to culture. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I agree with that. Yeah. Do you miss feeling like a giant while you were there too?
That was pretty cool. Just being like a celebrity for no good reason.
That's kind of how I feel as a podcaster.
Yeah. Rococo Katie. If you had to pick one of the 3 animals from the Genesis arena to fight from Attack of the Clones, which would you fight?
You're gonna have to.
Oh, that's a good question. So there's like the big one that looks like a praying mantis.
You remember Attack of the Clones when they're like chained up on the towers?
Yeah.
Padme looks all hot.
There's one that looks like a bearded dragon, kinda, I think.
That's right. Yeah.
There's one that's like a panther that kind of has a bearded dragon face. There's one that's like a big like praying mantis type dragon thing. And then there's like a bull, like a rhinoceros type one. Which I would pick the rhinoceros because it seemed like all you had to do was kind of jump out of the way as it was charging over and over again. The praying mantis to me was the scariest one because it was huge. And the panther, like Padme like drops a rock on it or something and it immediately dies. I feel like it was, I don't know. It seemed the scariest, but for me, I'm picking the bull.
She probably used the force to drop it.
Yeah,
force rock.
They're midichlorians.
Yep. I'll go with the mantis.
You want the mantis? You want to fight the mantis?
Yeah, I'm taking the mantis.
Okay.
Just have sex with it and then
Obi-Wan
bite its head off.
It doesn't bite its own head off. That's not how it works.
So what's your plan?
I'm not sure. I've been trying so hard to forget about everything that movie offered me.
Well, we're going to do your rewatch sometime soon. So
let's do Avolt 17 favorite actors to see work together, like a combo team.
Okay.
Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling.
It's what my brain immediately went to.
It's just the one movie, but man, they had the best
like
chemistry in that movie. It was so fun. The
Nice
good
Guys.
guy. What's that called? Nice Guys.
I'll go Godzilla and King Kong. Oh, the suplex. Wes, come on, dude. It was so awesome.
The first one. Did not like the second one. I'll try watch it again sometime.
My brain went to Denzel Washington and Ethan Hawke from Training Day. I really liked how they played off each other, but I was trying to think of like who's like a pair that just is in a lot of movies together. Like Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore.
Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks.
Clooney. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Brad Pitt, George Clooney's a good one.
Yeah. I
Who
feel
are
like
the guy?
Leonardo DiCaprio's in a lot of the same movies with people. Him and I don't know.
Rob Schneider and Adam Sandler.
Classic, yeah. Ethan Hawke and what's her name from the Before trilogy? Delpy. Julie.
Anyway. All right, we're gonna move on to
Bob Hope, Bing Crosby.
Sure. Bull sharks are listed as IUCN vulnerable. They aren't necessarily one of the sharks that are being targeted by these fisheries at a really high rate, but they are often caught as bycatch, especially in longline fishing industries. Their meat is consumed. Their fins are shipped to the Asian shark fin industry. Their skin is sometimes used as leather. They are, just like every shark species, pretty much every shark species in the world, extremely vulnerable right now. And that's just because of how good we have gotten at catching fish. Our fishing industries are way too technologically advanced to where we're just too good at it. We're too good at catching fish.
We can radar where fish are and like what type of fish they are.
Yeah, and the methods that we use for catching them are extremely effective. So we are losing bull sharks, just like pretty much every shark species in the world. So they are, right now they're listed as vulnerable. It's hard to get a good number on sharks. It's hard for the IUCN to say, we used to have this many and now we have this many, but they know they're decreasing. But bull sharks are very opportunistic. They have a lot of flexibility for food sources and environments. So I do think this is a shark we'll have for a long time, but I think they're amazing. I've free dove with bull sharks in Florida. So I was like in the open water swimming around probably 20 bull sharks, and they're amazing. They're incredibly graceful animals. They're beautiful. It was one of my favorite wildlife experiences I've had. So I really do love this shark. Okay, I don't think we need to. We've done claws on them before. We can do it. Why not? I'm going to give them 9 claws. They're sharks, so they automatically are top tier animal for me. They're not one of my favorite sharks, though. So I'm going to give them 9.
Same. Exact same reasoning as you, Wes.
Yeah, I'll go 8 for the same reasoning. I don't think they're in my top. They're like around like 6 or 7 for sharks.
Yeah.
For me.
Do you guys want to go to Florida sometime and swim with them?
Yeah, I'd love to.
We should just do it. That's not that expensive, and I think
I'm ready.
Figure that out.
Let's go now.
We could go.
Let's wrap this up
during football season and see the Jacksonville Jaguars play too.
Yeah, I think there's a season for swimming.
Another animal to go check out.
Guy Pearce in space prisons. You think that counts?
as two actors working together. No.
Oh, I mean, if it does, that's my pick.
All right. Thanks, guys, for listening. As always, I hope everyone has a really fun July. It's my favorite month of the year. I hope it's great for everyone. And if you guys are looking for more content, check out our Patreon. Mike, what was the most recent one you just did again?
Wolves.
It was wolves. Yeah. An
Gray
episode
wolves.
on wolves. Gray and gay wolves we talked about.
Oh, yeah. We did a lot of...
It's kind of a Pride Month episode. It was a fun one. I really liked that episode. And Jeff, your most recent one was also a real winner. I'm trying to remember what it was because you did some main episodes. I can't remember what your last one was.
It was fun.
Mike did
I remember liking
a pigeon one. Yeah, Mike did a pigeon one in the mix too. Anyway, It's been really fun. If you want more content, it's $10 a month. We're not changing that price. So
we're like the Costco hot dog.
If you don't like it, you can cancel it. Get on there and listen to what you want to listen to and then cancel. We don't care. All right. Love you guys. We'll talk to you later.
Love ya.
See ya.